Now with me in the studio, I have Professor Kila, Professor of Strategy and Development and Institute Director at the Commonwealth Institute of Advanced and Professional Studies. He is also, in addition to all of that, the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council of the Michael and Cecilia Hebrew University in Aworawo, Delta State. And last week, I was waiting for him to show up here before we remind him of the implications, having congratulated him last week, but we'll congratulate you again. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
We are all celebrating with you, but you know, you have to wash it. As they say in Nigeria, Nigerian balance.
Thank you.
And then, of course, Mr. Jide Ologun is here, legal practitioner, national development advocate, and fellow Institute of Leadership Coaching and Strategy, and Professor David Aworawo, Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies at the University of Lagos. Gentlemen, you're welcome again this week to the program. Now, before you joined me on this set, I was speaking with Professor Franklin Ungu, Professor of Strategic Management, Corporate Governance and Risk Management at the Pan-African University. And we touched on a number of economic issues. The foreign reserve of Nigeria, which the CBN governor says has grown to $41 billion. And this shows that the Tinubu administration is doing better. This will build investor confidence. This will help to stabilize the Naira. This will help with foreign exchange considerations. It will also attract foreign direct investment, all of the positives. And then we evaluated the criticisms by Nigerians that, well, we seem to be strong externally in terms of reserves, but in terms of fiscal policies, fiscal strength in Nigeria, there's a lot of weakness. Multidimensional poverty, inflation, double digits, over 23%. Revenue to debt ratio, very high. There's still a lot of borrowing, running into about 150 trillion as at the last calculation and all of that. So there will seem to be distortions within the economy. And he was calling for holistic thinking. He was calling for deep thinking, looking at all the aspects. And he believes that while the reforms may be good on paper, the manner of the introduction and implementation of those reforms will seem, to have been where the problem is. Then we talked about revenue formula that is to be adjusted. It sounded like it was in support of the review of the revenue formula, that the Constitution, having moved more items to the concurrent list, and from the exclusive list to the concurrent list, that the states and local councils indeed deserve more money. But I raise question. I should know that these state governments and local councils, they are not centers of productivity. They are centers where if any money comes in, the governors and the local government chairmen just jump at whatever comes in. But you say, well, the federal government itself is not better, and that the states really need more. But we have a responsibility as citizens to hold them more accountable. And in that regard, we were talking about guarantees. We talked about a plan to increase the salaries of political public office holders. He said, well, while again on paper, you may say that is long overdue, considering that the last time salaries were increased was in 2008. But that the timing is wrong, and that it will appear insensitive to Nigerians whose national minimum wage have not been paid, to pensioners, to workers who are not receiving salaries, pensioners not getting their benefits. And finally, with him, we touched on the issue of ASU. The federal government has come up with what it calls Tertiary Institution Support Fund. But ASU says no, they are not interested. ASU leadership has even directed university teachers not to apply for the form that will grant them access to the loan. That university teachers are already over-indebted. To ask them to come and take any support fund, which is a loan, will mean adding to their burden and liabilities. Well, there is also the University Polytechnic teachers under the umbrella of ASU. Those ones say, like the ASU, that pre-existing agreements should be respected. That government has not respected agreements entered into with the bodies, with the unions, and that is where it should start from, not to offer loans to workers. In the second segment, we had two representatives from Magodo Residents Association of Magodo Phase 2, who were saying that the gorge in that estate, Magodo Phase 2, which is supposed to be, which is not even in the master plan of the Lagos State government, that some developer colluding with officials of the Ministry of Fiscal Planning is now erecting a structure there. And that it poses a threat, not just to the environment, but also to the about 20 or more houses in the area, to the road, adjoining road, and that place is not for development. It's supposed to be a buffer zone for the safety of that estate. And to have approved or to have allowed anybody to develop there, will amount to a threat to the entire community. So they gave the details. They've written a petition to the governor of Lagos State. A stop work order has been put in place meanwhile, but I was asking them, why not go to court to enforce your rights? Why not approach the governor directly instead of just writing petitions? But that's the state of the matter. Those were the 5 issues that we've discussed so far. So, Mr. Ologun, let me start with you.
Thank you very much. Let's start from the complaint of the Magodo Phase 2. I understand
Do you live there?
I don't live there.
Okay.
But Mr. Ologun knows everywhere.
Just to be sure.
Yeah, but when it comes to properties,
It is constituency. His property and his Lagos. He knows everywhere.
Okay, the whole of Lagos is your constituency.
There's no property in his constituency.
it's really a section that we help in fighting the flood that comes visiting from time to time. And on this issue of government approval, we need to really look into it. It's not only in Magodo. Remember at the time when some land grabbers also came in and some government officials were alleged to be aiding them. That was even the time when the governor himself was embarrassed by the behavior of those land grabbers. We need to establish the strength of the rule of law. But what shocks us is that despite all this, you may find that construction proceeding. In Arepo community, also in Ogun State, suddenly somebody came and started constructing a filling station in a place that should not be suitable for that purpose. And with all the efforts of the community, the project is still ongoing. So we need to put the big picture on the table. What exactly are we out to protect? Is it that we allow some to stampede the rule of law just because they are well connected? And research has also shown us that sometimes some top government functionaries are probably investing in advance for when they step out of government are involved in some of these transactions. But we wish the Magodo Phase 2 stakeholders the best in managing that. And like you advised, they may go to court or approach the governor directly, but also in Nigeria, the last stretch is that go to court. So the judiciary also must come up like an institution that can be trusted to dispense justice on issues like this. And this brings us to the issue of ASU and ASOP. It's quite disturbing. I was particularly interested in the tenure of Ngige when the ASU went on strike, and he rushed to the National Industrial Court to interpret the Trade Disputes Act that says those who participate in strike will not be paid. The concept of no work, no pay. Then, and the issues that prompted that industrial action are still the issues we are discussing. A 2009 agreement that even the former president of Nigeria, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, described as not sustainable. And yet, despite the collective bargaining decisions that were entered into by stakeholders, the government is paraded as not respecting the spirit of those agreements. And the victim here is our education sector. Many lecturers have gone out of the country to seek greener pastures. And on the flip side of it, it appears that those who should even show concern are well paid and getting their salaries increased and things like that. And, you know, I was reading that it may shock you to know that a professor earns less than 600,000 naira per month in a country where some legislators earn 21 million naira per month. And we need to look at the intention of the country to develop and put this side by side each other. And that I link with the RMAFC intention to review the salaries of public political office holders. And my mind goes straight to the early 70s, specifically around 1972, when the military head of state, General Gowon, came out to say that the problem of Nigeria now is not money, but how to spend the money. And the Udoji Commission was set up to look into the public sector. And there were recommendations made to make the public sector have a vibrant structure that will be goal and service-oriented. And of course, remuneration was one of it. And the only one that really enjoyed endorsement was the increase in the remuneration. That was when many people started marrying more wives, and that was where the ostentatious lifestyle in the public sector started in Nigeria. And here we are today. Despite all these increases, the macroeconomic environment frustrates the increase. When the labor organization went negotiating the last minimum wage of 70,000 naira, it was like a huge achievement. But that 70,000 naira minimum wage is just about $34. And so you can imagine a family depending on that in a month. And of course, we understand that the president is now calling on diasporans to come back to Nigeria. And I want to advise that Nigeria should first be made a place where they can really come back and thrive and really have a future they can leverage on. And talking about our foreign reserve, good report, theoretical in nature. You know, even Dr. Okonjo-Iweala came out to say, yeah, the president has succeeded in stabilizing the troubled economy. But what about the safety net? What are the benefits for the citizens? You know, I read that about 2 trillion was shared from the federal account in the month of July to the tiers of government. And even the president himself went to the governors that, hey, we have given you money. How are the people impacted positively? And I will summarize with the comments of the American embassy in Nigeria that our governors live very ostentatious life, spending money to renovate their residencies and public infrastructures while the citizens are suffering. You know, the real attention should be on enhancing the lifestyles of the majority of citizens. You know, an excuse was given that will give us enhanced fiscal responsibility. If you look at fiscal, it's from the Latin word fiscus, the Roman Empire. And it was actually the management of the wealth of the emperors that later graduated to the finance of the state. And if you come back to today, it appears that the commonwealth of the country is held hostage by a few, and yet reference will be made to fiscal. So congratulations on the enhanced foreign reserves. But how will this impact the citizens? Inflation and other economic indices that we have that has still kept the nation positioned as one of the poor countries in the world. So my submissions in the interim, Doctor.
Okay. Professor Aworawo.
I will go in the order in which Professor Ngu went.
Okay.
Beginning with the foreign reserve.
41 billion, thereabouts. Yeah. We should commend government for that. We should be happy about that. But we shouldn't take that in isolation. Because even the government itself, that's the Tinubu government, when it came in, it was deceived by the Buhari government to think that the reserve at that time was $24 billion. When they checked, they discovered that debt had wiped out 20 billion, thereabouts. So what the government met that was real was about less than $4 billion. So we must put the figure of 41 billion side by side debts and other economic indices. And if we do that, we'll see that it counts for very little. Because the government just went to borrow over $21 billion not long ago, in addition to all the ones that have been borrowed before then. So when you put them side by side, we should be happy that the foreign reserve has increased, but it doesn't count for so much if we put that side by side all the other indices of the economy. And that links the economy itself. Professor Ungu said, the economy is stabilizing, it's improving, but that the fundamentals are faulty. I agree entirely with him, and I've said this several times. That comment, subsidy is gone, was a huge mistake. And that is what we have struggled to grapple with until now. It caused distortion, which we have not managed to move away from. We could have gone, more gradually. We could have gone more swiftly than other government did in increasing the fuel price, but not wiping it out entirely, to enable people productivity to be able to, continue. It doesn't make sense having 2 trillion sharing among tiers of government that we know will not impact on people. And Nigerians are not even interested in that. They're interested in a structure that will make them to work and earn their living. And when they talk about social safety nets, what do they mean? I heard Okonjo-Iweala talking about social. What is that? You transfer 10,000 to people, and that is social safety net? That has a huge, look, first, it is not enough to go around. I know tens of thousands of poor people. I don't know one who has ever got anything like that from any social thing from government. 2, it is not enough. 10,000, what do you do with it? And then 3, it is episodic. It is not regular. So that is not what will anchor people's sustainability on. What we needed, which was not done, was an economic structure where more money for government, because they were actually borrowing to pay for subsidy, which was bad.
But social safety nets, they are also saying that the federal government will now feed 20 million pupils in schools.
With about 1
they have forever been feeding these children. Even during COVID, when schools were not on, the Hajia, Hadiz, or whatever her name, the one who was in charge of materials, said they gave a huge figure of students they fed when these children were on holidays.
Why not there to eat the food?
All these social safety net, what is social safety net? 10,000 to people, few people?
No, bro, that time they were feeding their spirits, but go ahead.
You see, when they make these comments, I get almost angry. Even with Okonjo, what she's saying, did you not live in Nigeria to see that these things are useless, almost useless? I know hundreds of thousands of poor people, they don't get anything. I don't know one who has ever got. A few people they get 10,000. It doesn't come regular, it can't go round. It comes in episodic fashion. It's not consistent. So when you talk about the structure we need is one that will enable Nigerians to earn their living. If you give more money to federal government, gets more money, state government, and then what? How does it affect the people? That was where I found if they had done it in such a way that we see our subsidy to some extent stabilize the economy, work on their own, they won't bother about government. If government now make maybe instead of 20 trillion, maybe makes 12, that will be okay. People will be able to move on with their lives. The government will have more money, will be fine. Unfortunately, we went that other route where we are now struggling, to come out. But we are happy that, of course, we now have more money and all that. There more salary for increase of salary for public office is laughable. It's not the salary that is actually the issue. So even if you increase it doesn't really mean much. Although I have also agree with Professor Ungu, it's incentive to Nigerians to be increasing the salaries of those 30-something million they say, or 20-something million that people in legislators earn. It is not the salary. Newspaper allowance alone is more than the salary that even the president himself, if he were to live on his salary, he would be a very poor man. His salary would be about 2 million naira.
1.5 million.
So less than 2 million. He will be a very poor person. So that is not the issue really. But I agree also with the professor that it is incentive to increase salary of public officials at this time, when we know that they already earn a whole lot. You know, for instance, and then to link ASU. My salary is about $300, a month. 540,000 maximum. That is what I earn. It's the lowest on planet Earth. And just like Barrister Ologun has said, the agreement 2009, ASU has not been sensitive to reviewing it. The aspect of it might be anachronistic now. Let us renegotiate. To be fair to the Tinubu government, they've actually negotiated a whole lot and agreed on a whole lot. But nothing has been signed. Nothing has been implemented. It is negotiated and kept there. And on top of it, they don't say loan. Why would I can't touch it because
This is support fund.
So but it's a loan. It's a loan you have to pay back.
It's a loan.
It's a loan you have to pay back. Why not pay me what we have agreed to and let me move on with my life? Instead of not saying, what you are owing me, you can't pay me. You are not saying you want to give me a loan. Nicodemously.
No, you collect form.
I feel. Okay.
No, there's a standard
procedure. Okay. So, but of course, ASU is right in rejecting, and you can see other bodies are also rejecting it. That is not the way to go. To say, I should come and collect money and go and do a farm or agriculture. Perhaps that's the what they are encouraging. That come and collect money and go and establish farm. How do I even teach? If I start doing my farm is growing and doing well, the children might just be abandoned. Anyway, we don't need that loan. They should just, what they have negotiated, should first approve. Then we can negotiate the other part of that agreement. Then finally on Magodo, well, they will not be able to see the governor. Maybe if they have a very big man in that estate who has links, they can see the governor. Otherwise, the guys that came here can say, well, how will they see the governor? They can't see the governor. So maybe going to court.
Why? From merely looking at them? Or
they can't see the governor.
Why?
They can see the
They are
governor.
stakeholders. They are representing
They
a
may
big
not
community.
even be able to see the chief of staff.
In fact, from bringing it to the open, the governor may be invited.
Try to be fair. No, this is Magodo Residents Association.
Yeah, well,
It's
if
not,
they have some individuals.
It's a middle class, upper middle class neighborhood.
Middle class.
Yes.
Even you may not be able to see the governor as easily as you think.
Well, I don't need him for anything.
So they may have to, maybe going to court will be the solution. Yes, but we say go to court. Yes, the courts have become, unfortunately, when they say go to court, it means that you won't find justice. Even President Basanjo wrote recently that our courts are now no longer courts of justice. They are courts of corruption. That speaks a lot about the judiciary. I've been saying this. They need to really reinvent themselves and regain that respect. But it's not all the judiciary. Everybody in the judiciary. Absolutely. So they have to. If they go to court, that will be a way. And it is so bad. They are not the only ones. So just as I said, many estates where a place is designated for children to play and all that, somebody goes there, hijacks it, and builds there. So we're just living like in a zoo. The governor will hear us, and I'm sure one good thing about the governor is that he will act. So it's good they have come.
I want to believe that if they seek audience with the governor, they should be able to see.
Now that they have come to this,
because government is there for the people.
Yes.
Exactly.
Isn't that what democracy is all about?
It is.
Exactly.
So
now that it is public
don't just
domain,
jump to the conclusion that they can't see the government.
Let me tell you what will happen. Now that it is in the public domain, as they have come out,
yes.
If they now want to see the governor, they will be able to see the governor. And that's the good thing about the step they have taken to make their concerns public. They will not be able to see the governor, and the Governor Sanwo-Olu will address it very simply. I can assure you of that.
Okay. Professor Kila.
Well, I think everything has been said. I just want to appeal to Governor Sanwo-Olu directly. Please, prove Professor Aworawo wrong. Step into this matter and let's close.
Right. I said
him. You said okay. Just,
I said he will. If he hears,
okay,
he
just
will.
step in and let this matter close. So they won't say they can't see the governor of Lagos, even if it's not true. This is the time for you, Mr. Governor, to show that the governor of Lagos can be reached and is communicatable. As well as the chief of staff and every other person there, because this idea that they don't respond to text or phone calls, or what is it? How do they try to find them?
It is to see.
It's to see. Okay.
It's not actually their fault. It's not their fault.
Well, no, it's always
somebody would have stopped
their
them
Are
long
you
before.
speaking from personal experience?
Yes.
Okay,
Really?
There are
so many people who not. Yes, the chief of staff actually came for a program I
okay,
organized.
let us agree, Governor Sanwo-Olu, that you must see any professor or any lawyer. No, don't say lawyers, because those ones might take you to court. See the professors and talk to them. That will solve the problem of Lagos State. Let me start from the foreign reserve. I mean, I think there's no way where somebody will not be happy if they say our foreign reserve is rising. That makes a lot of sense. And even though there are reservations about nominal quantity and the real quantity when juxtaposed with things like loan and other things, we should still be happy that they've moved it from a low level to higher level. So congratulations to the managers of our Forex, the CBN in premise for that. The point people point out is a true point that the government, the administration seems to be pleasing outsiders and not caring about Nigerians. One of what I love most about economy is the ability to link what happens on the macro level to a simple family affair. There are those families where outsiders always say your children are well behaved and you have a good home. But most of the time, it is to the detriment of the children because they are well behaved because they're not playing and they're not happy and they're keeping short when visitors are there. I think the administration needs to learn to be careful, not to be an outsider pleaser to the detriment of the people. And the way to do that, and I must say, rarely do you have a country that people are praising their economy and the people are doing well, especially developing countries. Institutions like IMF, World Bank, for some reason, and they need to work better on that, they seem to praise countries that are doing things where the citizens are suffering. That is a flaw on their part. I think the way out of it, to be able to please the citizen and the foreign powers as well, is to push the two levers of monetary policy and fiscal policies. I have said earlier this year when I wrote an open letter to Wale Edun, the minister, economic minister, to say that we cannot feel the pulse. I think it was called Balata for Wale Edun. We cannot feel the pulse of the fiscal economy. We are feeling just everything we're saying is about forex, about monetary policies, about interest rates, about dollar rate. What we need is a situation in the country where, as Professor Aworawo has rightly noted, people can just lead on their lives, where they buy for little, add some value to it, and sell and make money. They put up a sign, they say they are providing a service either as carpenters, dentists, or photographers, and without much money, they're called to do their service, and they do it so that artisans can travel without costing an arm and a leg for transportation to go and do their job. A lot of the price increase we've had, and again, Professor Aworawo is right, is due to the cost of energy and the cost of transportation. That was a kind of intervention that has caused a large problem in our system for people to recover. The source of the inflation we have came largely from that, and that needs to be looked at. People say there was no choice. I disagree. I think it was possible to have another kind of approach. Some gradual, some maybe none at all. So we need to look into that. When we juxtapose the reason why citizens do not seem capable, at least some critics or observers, do not seem capable of celebrating the increase in foreign revenue, which, by the way, is undoubtedly a good thing because it's a symbol of stabilized economy. It shows you can pay what you owe. It shows you're bankable. But the reason why observers can notice that some citizens are not happy about it is because of what citizens are going through. And it is not just insensitive at this moment to be asking for a pay rise for public officials. It's vexatious. It shows a very dangerous disconnection between what is going on in the street and what is going on in the palaces. That is a moral issue of perception. But there's also an issue of economy there. This idea of increasing wages to deal with problem of cost of living is a wrong kind of economy. What we need to do is not to pump more money into the economy, is to increase the amount of goods and services available in the economy. Because, and it's because we're not thinking it through. If you increase the wages of one sector, any sector of the economy, chances are the other sectors of the economy will ask for more money. This more money that you give to them, if you do not increase the amount of goods and services that they're going to buy, it's going to swallow it in the gray, dark, nasty tunnel of inflation. So what we need to do is to make sure that the money we have now has more value. The way to do that is to make sure there are more things and goods and services that people can buy for it. We need to work on reducing the price of food, the price of health, the price of transportation, and perhaps the price of housing. Those are the, four crucial elements that determines the value of our money. We need to make sure that these things are available there. So that is where we need to invest on seriously. The talk of reviewing the revenue formula, I am all for. We need to decentralize. There's no point. Dr. Bati says we should be worried that the people at the local government level and the state level, they just pounce on the money and eat the whole thing. I think the Nigerian word is chop it. The whole money. No, well, look, yes, the risk is there. Let's be careful. I mean, Dr. Bati is cynical there, but he says the truth. Being cynical does not mean it's false. His concerns are real. What we need to ensure is that two things. Number one, we need to agree that government needs to move closer to the people. Local government and state governments are closer to people. We then need to monitor them. We need to put in place mechanisms that ensure that they actually do the job. So they don't just get the money. I hear somebody say, the president told governors, I've given you money, what you've done with it. No, I disagree with the president. When you're giving them the money, you'll have shown what they're going to do with the money. So instead of asking them what you've done with the money, we should be monitoring what you gave them the money to do. Will make more sense. So that when the money should definitely go to local government, and even I'm afraid of local government because local government and state government, but when the money goes to them, we should just sit on their neck to make sure we know where they live, we know what they do with the money before the money comes so that it doesn't disappear. I think we need less discretion and stronger institutions and transparency.
Well, I thought we've had the fair...
We've left the ASU. The ASU people, we had it from. Professor Aworawo speaks for everybody on ASU.
Okay.
Give them their money. Stop giving them loan.
But
otherwise, we look for the governors.
Let's go quickly to something Mr. Ologun alluded to. Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was in Yokohama, Japan, to attend TICAD 9. And on that occasion, he met with Nigerians in Japan. Imagine, there are Nigerians in Japan, in Yokohama. And during that session, he told Nigerians in the diaspora to come home to contribute to the country's development, urging them not to stay away from home. Speaking at an interactive section with the Nigerian community in Yokohama, Japan, during the Tokyo International Conference on African Development, TICAD 9, Tinubu said Nigeria's growth under his leadership requires the involvement of citizens abroad. He emphasized that national development cannot be left solely to the government, but should be a collective effort between Nigerians at home and abroad. Tinubu added that true citizenship goes beyond holding a Nigerian passport, stressing the importance of character and commitment to the nation's progress. So, well, Professor Kila, you are one of the Nigerians abroad who came home. Okay, will you say that President Tinubu, is that right to say, well, whether you are in Japan or you are in Alaska, there's one Nigerian who lives in Alaska. Please come home.
There's more than one.
And contribute.
There's more than one that lives there.
In Alaska?
In Alaska, yes. I've seen a few people there. But I think the discourse, this speech by President Tinubu, I'm sure it's good intention, but it's more of a platitude, really. I think anybody says that and everybody can say that. There's nothing wrong with it, don't get me wrong. Platitudes are not bad thing. It's just that, for people like us, we look at the substance. Two things need to be said. I believe that the government should be talking about not just the sacrifice, but the advantage of people coming to Nigeria. To say, because we want you to come to Nigeria, we've therefore opened these offices in your country or online where your investments can be channeled directly. Because we want you to come to Nigeria, we're doing these investment schemes for you to participate in. Because we want you to come to Nigeria, we're allowing you to bring your friends and staffs and colleagues to come and work with you under a special visa scheme. That, I believe, should be the language of government, of governance, to say. But the intention is good. To be honest, you say I've come back to Nigeria, but I still, travel. I think the way the global world is now, it should be less about patriotism and saying come to stay in what place. What we need to create is a country where people stay because they want to, not because they have to. What we need to create is a country where people live because they want to and they can, not because they have to. I think that is the duty of the collective. That free will that allows. Our movement should not be born out of desperation or because we are constrained. The too many people who are in Nigeria today simply because they cannot get a visa to go out. You know, that's a terrible thing. There are too many people abroad who are there simply because they cannot see it fit to come back here. Those are the kind of things we need to address. And whilst we're at it, whilst we're on one hand, you know, telling people to come back home, which, as I say, is a laudable platitude, I think our middle class, our elites need to at some point look at themselves or ourselves in the mirror. The rich people like Dr. Abati, who earns more than the president of Nigeria, should at some point, yes, you do earn more than the president of Nigeria because we've seen the salary.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, I know your salary. So at some
How much
point,
do I earn?
I won't tell people. Otherwise,
no, in the spirit of transparency.
No, well,
not say it.
I shouldn't be saying your salary.
Say it.
I haven't seen your place, but I know you earn more than the president. Since we know what
How can I earn more than the president of Nigeria?
Why? No, has the president read more books than you? Or has he written more articles?
I can
than
say
you?
I've read more books.
Yes, you have read more books.
I can speak.
So for every book you've read, if we put money on it, we translate it to
It
you.
doesn't work like that, my friend.
Than the president of Nigeria. But the point is, we should also look at Nigerian elites and ourselves. So we're in a country where shopping malls, airports, they're selling citizenship anywhere. Banks are selling foreign citizenship. I think in terms of free market is a good thing, but we're talking patriotism and a moral consideration. We need to look at ourselves and say, what has we turned this country into? You know, a place where you want to buy your way out. I think government needs to work on that. More of that and less platitude.
Prof?
Yeah, I would like to start on this lighter note.
Dr. Abati's salary.
In the early 1960s, Professor K.O.D.K. of University of Ibadan, the Vice Chancellor, he actually earned more than Tafawa Balewa, the Prime Minister.
Absolutely.
So where we are now, you can see the dysfunction. So a whole lot has changed. And so much has changed to the advantage of those in government and, of course, disadvantage of those not in government. Now, to come to whether Nigeria...
Professor Aworawo, I think there should be a law that ties the salary of the president to that of the vice chancellor. Everything, no more, no less. But go ahead. I would like to propose that.
Now, as for the coming home, I would, the simplest theory on migration is the push and pull theory, Michael Todaro and the rest of them. The things pushing you to leave your country and the things pulling you where you want to go to. It's as simple as that. It's not enough to just say, oh, come home. Just like Professor Kila said, come home to do what? There have to be those things that will attract you to come back home for you to be able to come home. One Dr. Borode came from the UK a few years ago, went to establish a farm somewhere close, Latte or somewhere. And then what happened to him? He was killed by herdsmen. We were told that his family actually discouraged him from coming. But he said he wanted to come. He wanted to contribute. How much of improvement have we had in security in the country since Dr. Borode was killed? In fact, those are some of the things that inspired Igboho and the rest of them to start saying, look, no, we must have our own and all that. So, these are serious issues. They are not issues for joke. Security is the first thing that if you are not secure, you can't do anything. So if you say come home, do we have now enough security enough to be able to guarantee that they will be safe? What about the investment condition? Just like Professor Kila said, these are the issues. It's not a matter of come home. It has to be we want to be home, not that we are compelled to come. When the conditions are in order. In fact, one thing I should also add to that is that many Nigerians abroad don't want to live abroad. If the conditions here are okay, very few Nigerians will be abroad. In the past couple of weeks, I've had friends who came from, they don't want to go back. They enjoy the environment and everything, but they have to go because they have to earn a living. So these are things that must be put right. If they are put right, President Tinubu doesn't need to carry out a homily to anybody to come home. They will come home naturally.
Mr. Ologun.
Thank you very much. I agree with that. So we must create what will attract them to return. Sincerely speaking, for quite a number of Nigerians that live abroad, they want to be home. There's no place like home. I have friends in the UK, and I was in Texas, and I was to come back to Nigeria within 3 days, and it was raining in a shopping mall. And I was so excited. I saw some people I perceived to be Nigerian that, hey, I'm going back home this week. And one of them looked at me and said, you're going back home to where? Nigeria? You must be a big man. I said, no, That's my country. You see, what have we done, particularly in the area of security? Is very important. I read recently of somebody that came from abroad. I was going to Edo State, and he was shot dead by a customs officer because he refused to give 5,000 naira. You see, there is what you call your socio-economic environment in public relations. And even the people the president was addressing in Japan, good address, good intentions, but even right there, we did not project the spirit of SMEs, because I understand the exhibition booth that was allocated to Nigeria was empty, and some have made excuses for that. So we must let people know that it's about developing the country and not about show of going around the world to secure businesses for the elite. It's very important that we benefit majority of the citizens, because right now, even this syndrome of Japa is dwindling. Research has shown that there is a decrease, because there is one Donald Trump.
They're giving out less visas.
Exactly. Apart from even the cost of getting, how much is it now to get visa to the UAE? And or the Donald Trump in America who is resolute to throw people out of America. So this is the time to look inwards. And I'm advising that we should also shift our attention to the National Assembly. Please. Section 4 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended says that you should make laws for the peace, orderliness, and good government in Nigeria. And when we have this, it will be a pleasant place to stay. And let me say this. For those who have lived abroad and they come back home to try and establish businesses, even what some of them go through with government agencies to flow their businesses can be frustrating. So we need to take a holistic approach to these issues. And I conclude by saying, in actual sense, there is no place like home, but home also must be welcoming.
Okay, thank you. Let's just take our final topic. U.S. President Donald Trump has once again threatened Russia with harsh sanctions if there is no progress toward a peaceful resolution of the Ukraine war within 2 weeks. This comes after his recent meeting with Russian President Putin in Alaska. Trump expressed dissatisfaction with Russia's recent actions, particularly a strike on an American factory in Ukraine that injured several employees. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has accused Russia of stalling efforts to arrange a meeting between him and Putin. Zelensky believes such a summit is essential for ending the war, but Russia insists there is no agenda in place for such discussions. Well, back and forth between Russia and Ukraine. Obviously, President Putin wants progress only on his own terms, only on terms acceptable to Russia. Those terms acceptable to Russia, including land cession by Ukraine, those conditions are not acceptable to Ukraine. However, Ukraine says we can meet in Switzerland, we can meet in Austria, we can meet in Istanbul, but not in Budapest because of Viktor Orban's obviously, partisan, partial, allegiance to Russia. But very quickly, we have limited time. Professor Aworawo, let me start with you.
Well, this war cannot go on forever. So efforts should still be made to persuade Putin, to accept terms that are reasonable and that would be acceptable to all parts. Then for Trump, he needs to have a calmer temperament. He needs more patience. He probably will need to still meet with them one-on-one once again before bringing them together. Because obviously the position where Russia's position is vast, far away from Ukraine's position at the moment. So all parts still need some moving away from the position they are now, for this war to be able to come to an end. It has to come to an end at some point. But again, there is nothing more to sanction really in Russia. Everything has been sanctioned. So Trump needs more patience, a calmer temperament. Let him still push on the way he has. He has done well so far. He needs to push on. He should not be too much in a haste, because the issues are fundamental. They are not transient and accidental. And when there are issues like when the casus belli in a war revolve around issues like this, you need more caution, more calm spirit, more patience to be able to handle them. If he approaches the issues in this fashion I'm just talking about, I'm sure some breakthrough will be recorded at some point moving forward.
Okay, Mr. Ologun.
I agree with that. Like the elders will say, when a goat goes into a glass shop, you don't bring that goat out by force. Putin appears resolute. And on the side of Zelensky, he needs to consult his people. It's a constitutional issue. And see how they can, compromise. But talking about threatening sanctions, Russia has had the sanctions up to the throat. And given the Russian economy, I think Putin is prepared to face the sanctions. So the sanctions may not achieve this. But I must commend Trump for bringing European and some other leaders together to engage this. I monitored their summits and things, and I'm quite impressed. And like Prof said, these battles will end someday. And then there will definitely be need for compromise, but not necessarily by force.
Okay, if it's any kind of reassurance, Trump always chickens out anyway. So
he has made them realize it's American interest that if they are ready, they sort it out. If they are not ready,
they talk about
America moves on.
Trump can always chicken out. Prof, the last word on this subject.
Trump is a boy king, ruling an important kingdom, or a boy emperor who ruling an important empire. He hasn't got the temperament that you want him to have. It's not him at all. The negotiator does not give deadline, does not give timeline. You sit down, It's a basic thing in international relations. It's one of the things you write, because you know that it's a process. Everybody knows that when you go to a negotiation table, your departure point, there are postgraduate students who we have to write departure point and final point in any negotiation. So Trump doesn't get it. I wish Ukraine well. Trump is not their answer. History will help them. A pity, every day somebody dies, everybody suffers for what could have been avoided.
Thank you very much, Professor Kila. Thank you, Professor Aworawo. And thank you, Mr. Jide Ologun. You've been watching This Day Live, the Sunday talk show, here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati. From my entire team here in Lagos, it's bye for now, and thank you very much for watching.